All right, everybody, welcome to Cyber It's a special edition. It is live. And one of the reasons we want to do that is because every once in a while, we need to interact with the audience and have a chance to talk about things just on the fly. So we have an agenda, but we don't need to stick with it. We're going to talk about the Cybertruck delivery that's upcoming soon. What is happening with the union? There's these new supercharger diners. And then a really special treat for all of us. Alexandra has prepared a really good presentation to teach you more about what's happening with just the market and what's happening in China, just really educating us all. Welcome to the Bulls. We've got Alexandra Mertz, Tesla boomer mama. Everybody knows her. She's well respected. And then we've got Jeff Lutz. Same thing. I guess I have to say you're respected too. And you too, Christian.
I'm not.
If I don't, I'm going to get hit. You sure are. So why don't we get started with, basically we've got, Cybertruck delivery unions and so forth. And this, just for fun, Kilowatt said this. It feels like we could get a Cybertruck delivery event announcement any day now. I'm thinking it would be today or Monday. What do you guys think? It does make sense.
Why not tomorrow? Why not Friday?
It could be tomorrow. It could be Monday. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I mean, we hear it from all sides. I don't know whether you have better information than me. I just hear it, could be next week, could be next week. And people who are eligible, who had these 30,000 referral points, they're like, do you know anything? Oh, no, I don't, but whatever. So, and we saw from Joe Techmeyer those teaser posts where he had merch that the employees are receiving for the event. So it's coming for sure. It's going to be there in a couple of days.
What do you think, Jeff?
Yeah, I think it's imminent. I mean, if it's anywhere around the Q3 P&D number, then I'm a little bit more concerned about the P&D number than I was before, but we'll see. I think it's imminent.
Jeff, do you think that they might do the Cybertruck announcement of the delivery event, just saying when the date is around the P&D just to counter the negative news? Would they do something of that? I don't think they've ever done that, right? You think so?
Yeah, I think they could.
Okay. And then what's your guess? I mean,
I have no.
Christian keeps saying it's going to be next year.
I have no clue. I listen to you guys for the inside scoops. I have no idea. Maybe in the next week or two.
I guess my point is that we've been seeing so many trucks. They are everywhere. We just saw, what did they call it, Jeff? Production delivery. It's like a delivery version now, or?
Yeah, production candidate, master candidate. Yeah, it's getting close. We need the candidate. We need to get out of the primaries and get in.
What is the last thing called? It's production candidate. That's the one, right?
Yeah. Mass production.
Okay. So what will happen is probably they're going to announce the date, correct?
Yeah, they have a number of things they could announce. They could announce the date for the event. They could in this P&D. I hope. I mean, we're going to get into Q3 maybe, but I hope they're going to confirm that they're holding the 1.8 for the rest of the year. I think that's the most important thing. I think that's higher than even the date for the Cybertruck delivery. I mean, everybody in retail, everybody's got one on orders, anxious to see when the event is, and people who want to go party and get drunk, they want to know when the date is, so they can get ready. But the street, I think the street's looking for them affirming that they can hold the 1.8, and that would actually say a lot about demand. It would say a lot about the shutdowns. It would say a lot about a number of things.
Anybody want to make bets? It's all guesses anyways at this point, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's good thing it's coming. That's the only thing that's important. I do believe we'll have it. No. We'll have it all before the financials of Q3.
I don't think we want to bet. Alexandra's never want to bet against me.
No, that's true.
Never want
to bet.
No, and I'm already in Earl prison. Enough. Enough.
What do you guys think? Okay, so Cybertruck, it's imminent. Jeff says it's the word imminent. What does that mean, Jeff? 1 day, 1 week, 1 month? What does imminent mean?
What you were talking about the delivery event? Now you're talking about delivery of cars?
I think
No,
we should though,
delivery event.
Herbert, for fun, go around the room and we could give delivery estimates just for fun, just to get a gauge of where we think.
Okay.
It doesn't matter. Yeah,
We're talking delivery estimates now.
Yeah.
All right, let's go for
Yeah,
it.
for the
Alexandra, you
quarter.
start again. Yeah, go ahead.
Somewhere between 440 and 450, and I'm not gonna let myself pin myself down because it's just so impossible to know. I hope it's not really lower than that. I know there are a couple of numbers in the 430s out there. I do hope it is above 440. And production, in my view, will be significantly lower just because of all those breaks, and we knew that.
Yeah, Jeff?
447,000.
Ooh. Good number.
And you went down from 470 to 447.
Yeah, he was high. He's come down now.
And then
I
you,
could still be
Jeff,
high.
I was right. The number in my head just before Jeff said it, I was going to say 446,000.
Yeah. Okay. I don't have a number because why would
Oh, come on.
any of us?
Stop.
I do think it's gonna be 445. It's just gonna be a low number because I think
listen
we saw
to this.
Well,
447, 446. Is someone going to bet $1 now?
Well, Jeff,
Yeah, the
to be
problem
fair,
is-
you were at like
Price is right.
480. You were like at 480.
listen, the problem is the real stat that we've
got new
seen is the
information.
China numbers, and the China insured weekly insured numbers are low. And so the Model 3, and then we also have confirmation that their inventory that they built up was sold. And so it's like it was all sold. And so they tried to build up as more, but they didn't, build enough to cover themselves. And so there's going to be
we'll see.
lower.
This is good. We might be pleasantly surprised by a better number. Maybe we get a number 450, 460. And I think the bigger thing is what Jeff spoke about before is Q4. What does Q4 look like, right? Q3 it will be in the rear view mirror, and going forward, what's the guidance? Do they keep it in place? And are we going to hit close to 500,000 in Q4, setting up for the IRA kick in at the purchase rebate automatically? You don't have to wait for your taxes. So I think that's the bigger story in the stock. Yeah.
Our audience is saying 450, 460. I think we should send DRK to Earl jail if it's 10%. Well, 10% is too much. I think maybe.
Come join me. It's wonderful.
Okay. Oh, we got one. Okay. Matthias. No. Matthias.
Whoa.
No.
Whoa.
Uh-oh.
He is always too conservative, Matthias. That's why he works in
he's
finance.
Oh, P
No,
though.
he's
Yeah,
accurate.
P, production probably he's saying. Is that what he's saying?
Oh, P.
That's-
Yeah, okay. Production. 432 production. Okay, that's fine.
Matthias. No.
Yeah, like I said, I don't think it matters. Anything between
No.
430 and 460, it really depends. If they say we're at 1.8 for the year, I think that's where it's really going to come down to. I think we're going to be surprised. I think they drew down a ton of inventory. I think they've got a ton of Model 3 Pluses that are ready to ship, that they probably needed some sort of local certification that they haven't been able to get. That story is going to be interesting to understand what happened there. So, and then, you got Cybertruck starting, Model Y's, red hot. So like I said, I think it's really about what they guide going forward. And if you look at what's happening with interest rates, I mean, it's pretty relentless what's happening. Again, outside of the Fed pause, that's fine. But if you look at what's happening with the 5-year, the 10-year, the 2-year, like it's going to be more expensive to buy a car, to finance a car, much more expensive.
Completely agree. One of the slides I show later on. Yeah.
And it's going to impact this quarter, the Q3
Oh,
number.
it does already. Yeah.
Is that sensitive?
What's going to impact next quarter, Q1? Herbert, we've been talking about these interest rates are not going down anytime soon.
I love when Christian gets into it. We've been talking about
saying,
this.
like some magic's going to happen. Is this going to happen? The interest rates are not going down. He told you it's probably going to be 6 months before they do anything.
No, I'm saying the interest rates have been what they have been, and maybe they might go up by a quarter point. Why all of a sudden this last month, all of a sudden there's a huge change? There should not have been a change because it's been that way for months.
Oh no, but it's going higher now. You will see. I'll actually show some slides where you see how affordability gets worse and worse.
Okay. Xander, what is your estimate for Q3?
4.
Come on, pull it.
430.
Oh,
430.
oh,
Whoa.
oh.
No, just
Wow,
kidding.
you
Just
guys
kidding. All right.
fair.
444. I'm going for
There you
the
go.
444. I
Oh
think somewhere
my
around
god!
This is terrible, guys. We're just pulling numbers out of the hat, and this is
The
pathetic.
hat?
Pretty
Oh, I
much.
None
didn't
of us-
think of
my
the hat.
number, my number. I was the first number. There was tremendous
Okay.
calculations that went into it.
Okay.
All of a sudden, it's 1,000 lower.
Oh,
Then it's
no.
1,000 lower. Then it's 1,000 lower.
What did you
Yeah.
say? I missed it. I
You
missed
took
it.
my number.
I was 447. Christian was 446. Alexander says I'm somewhere between 440 and 450. I get 10 guesses, and then Herbert
see?
comes in at 445, and now you're 444.
I didn't know that. I was setting up my ears and my teleprompter. So
The problem, Jeff, is that you came out with 470, and then
Yeah,
now you're
that's what I just
447.
said. He had
So
a high number.
Come on,
I got
dude.
new
Took
information.
my number and saying we copied him.
When
Okay,
you're in
I'll
business,
have
you get
my
new information,
guess.
you adjust.
I'll have my guess on October 2nd at 8 p.m. Eastern, and I'm going to have new information, and I'll tell you what it is at that time.
I didn't have new information. I had
I love
information
you,
from a
Herbert.
month ago. I've been consistent about
That's
low to
true,
mid
but
fours.
you're always negative, so we're moving into your territory. That's good.
Okay,
One
so
man's
it's interesting
negative is
because
one woman's realistic.
There you go.
okay, so we got 443, we got 450, we got I don't know.
I
What
love
this is,
Claudia. Hi, Claudia.
444. Yeah, so it's like it's all over the place, right? Although it does look like it's very low. Okay.
That's okay.
I mean, I've asked this
Like I
question
said,
a few
doesn't
times
matter.
already, guys, but I mean, it doesn't matter, right? Except
No,
for
it
the
doesn't.
1.8.
I'm with you now.
Who
Does
thinks?
not matter.
Is there any
Matters, but
indication that the
long-term.
1.8 could change? Is there any indication that that could change?
I don't think so. I think they would cut price
Wow.
a little bit more to move units. I think Elon does not want to. He said, let's go back to Q1. And this is me thinking in Elon's head, which is difficult, but I'll try it. He said 1.8, and he gave 2 as a stretch goal. If he doesn't even make his regular goal, I think that would, again, show that Elon doesn't really have the pulse. So I think he will do everything in his power. I don't know if to get to 1.8. So if that means cutting a couple $1,000 off Ys and some 3s just to move units to get to 1.8, I think he'll do it because I think he said on Q1 1.8 was the number. So I think they'll hit it. I can't see them not hitting it.
The only thing I worry about is if they're, and again, I'm not a wizard like some of the people on Twitter who think they know Tesla inventory without having a Tesla badge, but I do fear that they are undersupplied right now. They're under inventory. When you enter a quarter where you're supposed to go a lot bigger, you actually would want to have something called beginning on hand, BOH, beginning on hand supply. So I worry that is a low number right now. If that's a low number, that'll make their sellout velocity difficult in that first month where they want to get rid of this delivery wave. So that's the only thing I'm a little bit concerned about. Remember, when they call a number, they got to call it on everything. They got to call it on sales. They got to call it on supply. They got to get it down to one number, the least common denominator between the two. So that's the only thing I'm a little bit concerned about. And I'm concerned about, the rates. The rates have creeped up. Forget about what the Fed's doing. The rates are creeping up pretty significantly just in the last couple of weeks. So those are a couple of things I think that could be a risk to the 1.8.
how about what inventory that they had on hand? Are we talking deliveries or production? We're talking production, right?
No, we were talking deliveries.
Okay, so they have a bunch of units. How will that play into the delivery number?
Those are gone. Those are delivered. Those are delivered. Yeah, there's no stock at the moment anymore, which is fair enough. But the question is, will they be able to catch up with a very strong Q4 and have enough inventory to serve the fourth quarter? The demand is there. Nobody's really worried about the demand. Is how can they physically produce them and get them out on time before end of the year? So that the magical numbers there.
I guess my question came from I know that they track VINs. Were those VINs accounted for and then not, and possibly not in their total? I imagine they think this stuff through when they know better than Tesla.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
They know VIN. They know VINs that have been pulled. They don't know which VINs are in inventory, and which ones necessarily sold through. So I think that's the key. And I think Q1 also needs to be a very big production quarter, especially if this IRA is going to point of sale. You're going to go to bed December 31st. You're going to wake up and Teslas are, 95% of what Tesla sells are going to be 15 to 20% cheaper driving off the lot if you qualify. And that's in addition to what the states are doing too. So I think they have to have a pretty big production number in Q4. So hopefully these upgrades added meaningful capacity. They've added the headcount they need, and hopefully they're off and running. And then they'll kind of like what I imagine they would do in Austin is kind of have just a Cybertruck operation where it's getting up to scale on its own, and it's not necessarily pulling from Model Y. Again, Austin's not a huge number. They need the big numbers out of Fremont, Shanghai, and they would need Berlin as well, and then Austin to do its part to have a big Q4.
Yeah, and just a quick point of order. I think the last P&D, like the last few, they've all been falling like on the weekend, like on a Sunday. This should hit on a Monday morning because I think the first is a Sunday, so it would hit Monday morning. Maybe before the market opens. So anyone that looks at the stock.
The last six have been at 9 a.m. Pacific. So the market's open at that point. But if I know someone was predicting it's like 5:30 or 6:30 or 6 a.m. or something like that. So it's they might do something different since it's
something to be on your toes on, because usually it's been dropping on the weekend when no trading.
And they've been beating it on the weekend.
Yeah. So first, Christian, you have one fan.
I have a fan.
Robin's here for
Robin. Thank you,
I've
Robin.
got one person who doesn't like me or doesn't think what I said was right. So Nico said, what about the comment from Herbert a couple weeks back that the economy is improving? Seriously, we're about to enter a very tough period. Stock going to be depressed until end of next year, dollar cost averaging.
I agree with Nico.
That's what I've been saying. That's what I've been preaching. That's what I've been posting. Slow burn, dollar cost average, long term. Yeah.
Exactly. Hang in there.
So
all new money slowly into it.
What has changed? So basically, every metric we've been seeing for the last month have basically been what we were expecting for inflation, job numbers. What has changed? In fact, based on the year, it's expected that the second half of the year is going to go up. I'm not saying it's going to go up. It's not like the economy's all of a sudden improved. I'm just saying it's going to be about the same of where it is now. It's not that we're going to hit a recession in the next 3 months. What do you guys say? What have you heard in the last 3 months that has changed the whole, we should all be like stuffing our cash under our mattresses?
I'll tell you what I think. No one knows, Herbert. So when you say we don't know and everything's going to be the same, no, we don't know that. We don't know everything's going to be the same. Calamities can come out of anywhere in the world could cause a financial stress. And maybe there's nothing. Maybe there's just a slight GDP down, a slight recession. Maybe there's not. Maybe there's boom times coming. No one knows specifically. Yeah. But I disagree with you when you say nothing's changed. Something has changed. Inflation, about mid-year, everybody was predicting deflation, and inflation was going to fall so fast, so quick, that the Fed was going to cut. That was wrong. What has happened is inflation has come down. It's kind of reaccelerated a little bit now. The numbers are going back up slightly, so the Fed is tightening again. They're not getting easy. If anything, they're getting a little more hawkish. You have $90+ oil, which is inflationary. You got people on strike asking for more money, not just in the auto world. You got it in the trucking world, and I believe you had it in the healthcare world, Kaiser Permanente. So everybody's asking for more money. So inflation, or I dare say stagflation, is kind of not here, but it's kind of rearing its head a little bit. So I think that's why the market is a little bit kind of in a steady state right here. It doesn't mean we can't have a fourth quarter rally. It doesn't, earnings will be important. If earnings come through, I think we'll be fine. But I think the macro has changed slightly a little, getting worse again from a deflationary scenario to stickier inflation that's going to be around a little longer.
Okay.
You pull up the
So-
5-year or Herbert, the 5-year or the 7-year Treasury in the last 30 days, it's gone up from about 4.2 to 4.7. So you have that's a half a point. And when there's been no rate increase from the Fed, so the Fed got the equivalent. They've been doing these quarter point hikes. They paused in September, but they got a half point from the bond market. So
from the market.
Add to that, exactly. Add to that the petrol price, which is gonna go or approaching $100 now for the barrel. And here in California, we have the gas stations now between $6 and $7 a gallon again. This is crazy. I mean, the for the consumer, I understand that this doesn't go into all CPI numbers, only in the ones including energy, but this is real money going out of the pockets of people who are not driving EVs.
And that's most people. That's like 95%.
In America, it's still 92%.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Of a new car. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But that's
okay.
good.
Let's move on to the next topic, which is the UAW. I want to hear your thing. This is a Photoshop by Jeff. Jeff is a funny dude. He put this together.
Jeff has all talents.
Union president on the bot. Please don't do that, Jeff. Why are you putting union president face on a bot? Go ahead. Explain yourself, Jeff.
Listen, if I were working at a particular auto company that was not unionized and I was doing bot development, I would have an order out for a silicone mask made in his likeness. And the first bot would be being video trained for his first role. It's not going to be moving the blue box into the blue trays and the green blocks and the green trays. It's going to be literally video training on the UAW president's voice and his actions. And that first bot would roll out to replace that job.
What were you trying to say? Your point is
my point is what's going to happen here is the right things aren't happening in terms of these companies are being pushed into first off, labor deserves, you have this thing, the higher order bit here is things cost more. They cost 20% more than they did 2 years ago. And you have labor that has not had wage increases, some not at all. They're being held down at various tiers. So there's a labor issue. And so they go and they ask for 40% over a couple of years. And they ask for cost of living adjustments to deal with inflation. So it's this on top of this. Then they want the work week trimmed by 20%. And they want pensions. They want a bunch of different things. You have this huge ask and it's being whittled down right now. So what's happening is it's going to cost, a couple $1,000s more potentially to build an automobile, as these automobile makers, they're using very old tooling and very old processes, very old supply chains, very old methods to build their ICE vehicles and, quite frankly, their EVs. So they haven't transformed. So therefore, when they ask for these kind of rate increases, it's literally going and hitting the bottom line. So then they've got to raise prices. Then you have an inflation spiral with auto, or they're going to lose margins. One of the two things going to happen. And then if they start getting into trouble, then you've got the U.S. government, which has already given them $27.2 billion over the last 12 months. You're going to have more money flowing back into them. And it's really bad ROIC, return on invested capital, because that money going into these companies is not coming out with a great investment return. In fact, when the U.S. government got $49.5 billion of GM equity back in 2009, and I think they were only able to claw back about 39 billion. So they lost 10 billion on that. So it's not been a good return on investment. So why am I saying this? What's happening? What's going to happen is these automakers are going to be forced to go offshore, or or they're going to forced to do more automation. And I think I think they're going to go offshore first because they already have plants in Mexico, and that's going to be the first thing. And that's going to be very quick. That's going to happen quickly. So at the end of this, I think there's going to be losers on both sides.
I don't want to be political, but I'm going to talk about Biden showing up in the union line and then Trump's statement, which I actually agree, which is shocker. You guys know what I'm talking about?
You agree
do.
with Trump, Herbert? Oh my God.
I'm glad you do. A president, and this is not should not get in
Careful.
a picket line. No, he should not.
Agreed.
It's never been
Agreed.
done before. A president should be a balancing act between management and labor. A president should bridge a gap between labor and management, not divide, not stand on one side, not say, do they earn 40%? I think he says, yeah. I mean, are you kidding me? Irresponsible. He's pandering, and it's actually, I'm going to say it, disgraceful.
Yeah, I don't agree that Biden did
You
that.
said yes.
Yeah, no, I'm telling you that I think properly about what I don't like and do like about what people are saying. So I don't think Biden should have done that. But I also think, but then weigh it out, right? Biden did the IRA, EV, generational incentives for the sustainable energy. Then you got Trump saying that it doesn't matter because at the end of the day, ICE vehicles are going to die anyways. So what he's going to do is he's going to, first thing in office, he's going to get rid of EVs in general. He get rid of the EV incentive plan. So
we're going to talk a little bit more politics a little bit later on because my little presentation is on China, affordability, Chinese cars and all that. And you will actually see that politics have a good, an important stance here, not to say Biden is good or Trump is good. That's not my point. But the decisions that are going to be taken the next 24 months are going to be crucially important for the OEMs here in America. If they want to survive, they better have the politicians on their side because this is going to be a rude awakening for them.
And real quick, Herbert.
I think sorry, I was just going to say that, Elon's on the record. He was in a Wall Street Journal's CEO Council forum last year, and they asked him, what do you think of the IRA? And he's like, don't pass the bill. Right. They said, well, don't you need it for superchargers? He goes, no. He goes, is there incentives to build gas stations? He goes, we don't need it. Don't pass it. And he was coming from an angle of, we're already spending too much money and we're actually causing inflation. He goes, we don't need it. He goes, other companies may need it. He goes, we build for every EV that we build 2 EVs for every one that the others build. And he goes, we don't need it.
And I just want to say real quick, Herbert, Trump cannot unilaterally get rid of it's a passed law. It would have to go through both houses of Congress to override that bill. That will not be easy. I think the bill will stay.
First of all, that, and the second thing is, I think this is all posturing by Biden. By the way, you all have to know that Mary Barra was actually on the list to become VP for Hillary Clinton in 2016. She didn't become in the end. It was Tim Kaine, of course, but she was close to it. She was guest of Michelle Obama at the 2014 State of the Union. So she is very close to Democrats at the very highest level. So the fact that Biden goes now, is on the picket lane, screams 40% or whatever he did, it's just posturing. Because if he wanted, he could actually be the person balancing this out, and he's not. So this is shameful.
Okay. In general, though, this UAW strike, how big of a deal is this for the big three? Is this a killer blow? Is this going to be set them back by 2 years? Or is this going to be some, not a big deal, they'll just bounce back?
Well, it's actually going to be a killer blow next to 5 other bigger killer blows. So I think this is just an accelerator of lots of other things that are going to come for them, including the fact that none of their promises are held, neither in battery production nor in EV production nor in many other fields. So they have been lucky for a while. They have been able to count on subsidies and loans, but at one moment that won't be enough anymore.
Let's hear from Xander. We haven't heard from you yet.
I was going to ask, aren't they just going to pass down the cost to the consumer and that's just going to drive inflation?
While there are no cheaper cars that are comparable, yes, but wait and see.
Yeah. But there's a problem with that, Xander. It's just, you just can't do magic fairy dust, right? Like, yes, so if it costs them more, they jack the price up. But again, if we're going to the electric revolution, their EVs are already like $150,000. No one's buying these things. It's a joke. And even if their internal combustion engine cars go up in price, that hurts demand, right? Because not everyone's going to go pay up $50,000, $55,000, $60,000 just because GM or Ford's costs are going up. they just may say, forget about it. I'm not getting that new car. So it's just not as easy for them to just say, I'm just going to raise the price. They got a real problem here, and it's not just solved by, we'll just jack up the prices, because their demand will get hit. They're going to sell a lot less units, and eventually that's going to catch up with the bottom line.
Jeff?
Yeah, eventually they need to build a car with COGS somewhere in the $25,000 to $30,000 region, and it looks like what they're doing over the next couple of years is not some significant transformation and automation, not some significant reduction and simplification in components. So basically, this labor cost is going to hit their cost structure. And just think about how far they've been off. I know a lot of this has been contribution margin related, meaning they don't have enough scale. But right now, when Ford ships sells a Mustang Mach-E for 45 or 50,000, you can you can almost visualize like opening the glove box, and there's there's 6 stacks of 10K. There's $60,000 that's shipped with that car. It basically costs them more. They're actually giving away more to build, for the car than what it actually costs. So it's $45,000, $50,000 car they're selling, and it costs them $105,000 to build. And so if you add this labor onto it, already onto an inefficient approach to supply chain and manufacturing, what it does is it takes their EV aspirations and it even pushes it out further, which is all they've been doing in the last year, has been pushing out. And now they're going to say, well, we basically have an excuse. Now, on the other side of this, again, $27.2 billion has come in the form of loans and grants to help them with the EV transition. I don't know where all this money is going. I don't know if all the loans have closed or what the situation is, but the Ford. So it's, the answer to your question, like, what does this mean, the UAW strike? It's less, I think Alexander said, it's less of a September, October, November thing. It's more of a, like, what does this mean a year from now in terms of their cost structure and their ability to build anything, much less an EV? I think it pushes it out even further.
Can I ask a conspiracy type of question? So like, is this not the best? Is this not the best thing for them to just go bankrupt and pivot the entire? Like, how are you going? We've been talking about this for years. They have to cut off their arms, cut off their legs in order to make the transition. So they go bankrupt. They do pensions go away?
Maybe their plan is not to make the transition, Xander. I've been saying this. You want a conspiracy theory? I don't think they want to go EV. I think they'll find every excuse not to go EV, and they'll grease some politicians' hands to get rid of all these stupid mandates and say we can't do it, and they won't go EV.
That's what they're trying in Europe. That's what they're trying in Europe for the 2035 deadline, right? They're doing anything and everything possible to get rid of it.
Well, I don't know how you guys feel. I don't want the 2035 mandates. I don't want any of this. I don't want subsidies. Like free.
Exactly.
Let the growth
consumer
take. Yeah, the consumer will decide what they want. So,
and that's what Elon said. And that's what Elon. I'm a free market guy. I don't believe in subsidies all over the place. Like compete. Do what you want to do, and let the consumer decide.
But stop those loans, and you'll see where we are. We're dead in no time.
Yeah. Cut all of it.
Yeah. I thought Jeff's video from today about the Tesla's self-funding. If you guys haven't seen it, you gotta see it. It was like, that's the point. Tesla did it. Yes, they had some help in the beginning, but how many years are we talking now? How many years are we?
A long time ago. Yeah, and they repaid the loan in full. And it was early, and these other legacies haven't even repaid a lot of their debts
of the financial crisis yet. Exactly.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Right.
That's exactly it.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's the UAW, and that's I think
they're far off. The question. Just tactically, Herbert, they're far off. I think there was chatter about is the wage target now, is it 30%? That's just one element of it. Your pensions, you've got cost of living adjustments.
4 days.
You've got the 4-day work week. You've got the plant closures, which is actually the big thing for them. Like, there's a plant here in Belvidere, Illinois. They're like, hey, what's going on with all these plants? The UAW is bringing up the right things. Like, you guys are closing plants left and right. They're all going to Mexico. And I just think they're so far apart. They may agree to something at some point, but it feels like they're pretty far apart. Everybody gets focused on the wage thing, but I think there's a lot of different aspects where they're really far apart. And then basically tomorrow, the strikes escalate.
Friday deadline, exactly it. And the Stellantis thing already came in so late that's nearly sure that it's going to escalate.
Yeah,
I just had a little smirk there, Alexandra, because now you're on the side of it's going to be a long time. When a couple weeks ago it was like it's going to be done before midnight.
No,
the night before.
No strike.
You didn't even think they would strike.
Exactly.
But that's okay.
I thought they were intelligent enough to avoid it. I mean, come on, that would have been the intention.
Average.
I did.
You got a
right?
good batting average, Alexandra. You can't get everyone.
Okay, take the Mickey. Go ahead.
All right, let's go to a fun topic, I guess. This one is, I don't know if you guys saw this, but Tesla has officially started construction of a Hollywood supercharger with diner and drive-in theater. So this diner is going to have 2 floors. It's going to cover enough space for 218 seats. 93 will be on the first floor, 70 inside the diner, another 23 outside. And it's going to have a theater, 77-seat theater sitting area. So, obviously it's going to be fun. This is just a mock-up. I don't know if this would look like, but I think it represents a business model that few have even talked about, that it's not just superchargers. These are destinations that people will hang out in. I don't know. Is this a big deal or is it small dollars?
No, it's a big deal. They could take out legacy movie theaters, AMC, Cinemark.
You're joking, right?
You're
joking.
Just superchargers. Okay.
I'm joking.
It's
No,
a coolness factor.
Yeah.
Shall I tell you what I think about this? I mean, this may be cool and the destination, and I'm sure since I'm not far away, I may even go there once. I think this is silly and stupid use of time and money. I really do.
Wow.
I mean, yeah, and here I said it, and I'm the biggest Tesla fangirl out there, no doubt. But I think this is really, not a good use of time and energy.
I agree.
Like
Germans are united on this front.
I don't think it's a big deal. I think they just put out a nice little picture, get everyone excited. They're not going to do a lot of that stuff. Don't worry about it. They might do like a few locations here and there that are little monuments for people to check out, but I don't think it's a big deal here.
If it's a sort of a museum-like thing, where you go, a little showcase, fair enough. But if this becomes serious, that I have a lot of clients that are in the restaurant businesses. That's mainly my immigrants that I cater to. There is not much margin in restoration. There's just not, and in the whole restaurant industry. So and hospitality and all that. This is
Chipotle.
Oh, there he goes again. Okay.
There you go. He'll put a Chipotle down there.
Yeah, it does not make sense. Yeah. But what I want the superchargers to be is mini energy plants, because if they put solar panels, they put mega packs, they can take and
Well, that's what they have here in the desert. When I go from here to Vegas, all the superchargers, that's what they have. They have the solar on the top, they have the mega packs on the side. They are more or less independent now. There are so many of them. So we just hit the road last week. For every station there was 6 months ago, there is now double the size now. So something had 12 chargers, has now 36. I mean, they are expanding. It's crazy. It's a real pleasure to see. And that's their core business, and that's what they should do.
All right, let's get to the meat of the presentation. We're going to get some real education here from Alexandra. We're going to talk about market affordability and China. Do you want to set this up, Alexandra?
Sure. Thank you for overhyping it. It doesn't deserve this hype, but there we go. So what I did is I was researching numbers because I got a first study, and I want to thank all the people that sent me constantly excellent information coming from Europe, coming from Canada, coming from the US, everywhere in the world. I have so many people reaching out by DM, pointing stuff to me, and I'm really grateful because I would never been able to just research this whole thing without help. And so there's especially one person, Alexander van der Ven, who is in the car business in Europe, who sent me lots of the information I'm going to talk about now. This is all publicly available information, and I've already put the slides on my Twitter feed. So if you can't see them, you can go to my Twitter feed and see them there. And Herbert is also going to publish them, I think, on the Cyberbulls Twitter feed, right? X feed, sorry. I still have Twitter in my head. There we go. So the first one, if you want to put that up, Herbert, is just a reminder, end of 2022, where the important market is for EVs. So the first left side is for the whole of the world, then it goes to China, Europe, and United States. And I mean, I know most of the people know this, but I just want to really recall where we are. So the turquoise, the clearer ones are EVs. The dark blue is plug-in hybrids. So we're going to ignore them. And the orange dot is on the right-hand side, the share of EVs and plug-in hybrids in the total car market in that market. So worldwide, we were about at 14% EVs and plug-in hybrids end of 2022. We have by far exceeded that. You actually see from those orange dots in all markets, they're on an S-curve, there's no doubt. But by far the most EV cars are sold in China. Here, the last line in the China bucket, with a share already at 30% for both reunited end of 2022. And just to recall what happens now, by end of August 2023, in China, EVs only were already at 25%. So every fourth car sold in China is an EV. Let's go back to it. Next bucket is Europe. In Europe, no.
Oh,
we have to still do that one. Sorry about that. So in Europe, the total car number is lower. I mean, it is above 2 million registrations per year, but you see, obviously, it's smaller than China. But you see also that by end of 2022, the combined EV and plug-in hybrids was already above 20%. End of August, only EVs were already above 20%. So 1 car out of 5 in Europe is an EV. And in the United States, we're just trading because we're always talking United States, UAW, what is GM doing? It doesn't matter. They are the smallest piece of the puzzle. It really is incredible. It gives us the most potential in the US, no doubt about it, but we're so late and so slowly rising. So in the US, as of end of August, 8% of cars that were sold are EVs. Okay, so that's 1 out of 12. So I just want to make sure we understand that in China, 1 out of 4, in Europe, 1 out of 5, in the US, 1 out of 12. So moving on from this chart, I got one out of Bloomberg's article this morning. This is what happens in China for car exports. As you can see, this is a chart from 2015 to 2023. 2023 is only the first half. As you can see, the green line, these were ICE cars. So initially, they only exported ICE cars. They started, even though it was COVID, in 2020, exporting also battery and hybrids. And by now, the batteries are already nearly half of what they're exporting. So that's where I want to get to, because we're completely ignoring here in the United States the exports of Chinese EVs. Everybody tells me all the time, yeah, but they're only doing ICE. No, they're not doing ICE. Look at the blue bars here. They started doing EVs, and it's now going to be half of what they're doing. You can go to the next chart, please, Herbert. So that's this one made me laugh because remember Jeff just said a couple of minutes ago that in one form or the other, the government gave to the OEMs 26 billion, or was it 27 billion dollars of loans that just going to disappear wherever. China, over the 7 years since 2016, gave subsidies of exactly the same amount over 7 years for EV buyers. So they have internally really subsidized this a lot, but in a much more coherent way by giving point of sale reductions. So that's the Chinese politics on that. Now let's move on, because my whole theme when I was building this up was like, okay, where is Tesla's competition? And are cars affordable? And what does Tesla have to be to maintain its global market share? And now before we get there, the global market share of Tesla at the moment is 19.5%, or let's make it simple, about 20% of EVs. Of global EVs sold, Tesla sells 1 out of 5. So the first report I was looking to in detail is from this Jato Dynamics Institute. They're in London. They are helping Chinese manufacturers entering the European market. So keep that in mind when you see the next 4 slides. So the first one is light vehicle sales for the last 22 years. As you can see on the bottom, India has been picking up the last 2 years, brings up this whole discussion, should Tesla go to India? Does India have light vehicle sales? It is picking up. Japan is slightly decreasing. Europe is clearly decreasing. That's the Europe of the 29 nations. The United States had the bump in the middle of the financial crisis, but is also going down again. And obviously the red line is China. China being the winner. So it's both the winner internally in China and exporting. You can go to the next slide. This is just the difference from 2021 to 2022 of Chinese car brands, both ICE and EVs and hybrids, when they entered a market. You will see that they haven't entered all the markets yet. But when they entered Europe in 2021, that's the red bar on the left, it was nearly nothing. And then a year later, it was 4 times that. Latin America, much more. Africa, much more. Middle East, Eurasia, and Oceania. So they are having a completely other worldview than we have and completely other focus. And once they are there, they grow quickly. And I want you all to keep that in mind. Let's move to the next one, which is their main advantage, which is the price gap. And I mean, I know that not all cars can be compared, but when you see these numbers, it is crazy. So they compared here the price in local currency of a car in Vietnam, in Thailand, in Mexico, in Australia, Indonesia, South Africa, Israel, Chile, Turkey, the UK, Norway, and India, and at what price a comparable Chinese car started there. In Vietnam, it was 80% less expensive. In Thailand, it was 71% less expensive. Wow. So when you see these numbers, and they're still profitable at these levels, you know what's coming. And I mean, that's why I say, what the heck about GM and Ford? Because when this happens in or outside of the US, we'll get into that in a second, there is nobody else than Tesla that can withstand this wave. There's just nothing that compares to this graph. We can move on to the next one, which you have to make a little bit bigger and then slowly slide it down. So you see in the top bucket, the European expansion of Chinese cars, 2021, 2022, and first half of 2023. It's rapid in different markets. Same for Latin America. We've seen some of it already in some graphs. They have in some markets already half of the market. Is absolutely crazy. Africa, Middle East, Eurasia. But when you go further down in the last bucket, you see the countries that currently don't allow Chinese car makers to come in. So this is ultra important. And that's why politics, you can't just, completely ignore them. The United States have 0% import of Chinese cars. Canada, the same. Korea, the same. Japan just started a little bit last half year. So those 4 last lines, that's what China is preparing for everywhere else, right? And that's where politics, tariffs, the whole negotiation is so important. So, and that's why I really think Biden made a huge mistake, an absolutely huge mistake. But that's another topic, and I don't think we want to go there today. Where I want to point it out is we're not feeling any of this yet in the United States and Canada. And we should really be very careful about it. And then added to that came the last Cox Automotive study out. You can move to that, Herbert, please. Sorry, I make you work so much. And again, I linked to that, and I also linked to where you can download the whole presentation because I just took 6 slides out of that. It's actually very gracious of them how generous they are with making this all public. So this came out 2 days ago. You may have heard about that. It's the industry outlook. And the first segment I want to address is affordability. So in the United States, and now we're back in the United States, and why does Tesla lower the prices so much, and why is this so important to understand, rather than these Wall Street people we hear saying, oh, they shouldn't. So if you take out a new car and you do a loan, and this is all cars, not only EVs, but obviously any buyer has the choice of any car. I mean, if he wants an EV, he won't look at all of them, but let's just pretend he has. the average payments have now gone up between 23 to 39% since 2019, so pre-COVID. And for a new loan, the average monthly payment is now $770. For a new lease, it is $586. And for a used car loan, it's $592. So we're at monthly affordability that's really becoming impossible for people to stem. And if you please go to the next slide, those are the interest rates we just talked about, and they are not counting the last week, which obviously went up even more. So you have on the bottom the 10-year treasury in blue. Then you have the Fed fund rate in whatever color that is supposed to be, I think purple. And then you have the car rates at 961, and you have the used car rates at 14%. So it's just incredible. You have to understand a 14% loan means that if you take out a 5-year loan, you don't only pay the price of the car 100%, but you pay another 70% in interest. So you nearly double your payments of the value of the car. So this is why interest rates, and we talked about that earlier in the series. It's really important to watch that. Affordability of cars is the second biggest, after rent or mortgage payments, the second biggest item of consumers in the United States. And it's really important that people understand that we have to keep an eye on interest rate. And then the last chart on the affordability I took out of it was like 83% of the people they ask think that new vehicle ownership is out of their reach. 83% of consumers. 57% say new vehicles are just not affordable anymore. So affordability is the key word. Now, having gone through that, I also wanted to add 3 more slides from Cox, if you don't mind, which are on EV in the United States. So here they reiterate the 8% market share. Remember I said earlier, 1 car out of 12 in the US is an EV. So that's those 8% and how we got there. That's their current chart for that. Just wanted to throw that out there. And then the next chart is, there was actually a better one this morning in the press, but I already gave you that one. It's where are EVs? So 23% of cars sold in California are EVs. You have the national average at 8%, we just talked about that. And then you have certain states that are much lower, down to 1% in West Virginia or North Dakota, which probably, what's the senator from West Virginia called, Manchin, probably shows why he so much loves EV. I know he has Toyota in his state. So the last chart of all of them is this one. And I picked this one a little bit independent of all the rest because we saw this week Tesla putting out a special page for fleet sales. They are now addressing fleet purchasers, corporations that want fleets of Teslas. And that is not a coincidence. Why is that? So in this chart, Cox Automotive showed that retail sales have lost from 87% of all car sales, their share down to 80%. So 7% less of cars are sold to retail customers. The other 20% are sold to fleets. That's the graph on the right in blue and in green. And I think it's very important that that Tesla keeps that foot in the door for fleet sales, because especially fleets that rent cars, so this could be obviously Hertz or whatever, are today still the huge volume bringer for cars at current prices. So here we are. Wanted to make sure everybody keeps in mind this is a world business and not just a national business. The OEMs in the US are negligible. And what is happening in terms of affordability, we have to keep an eye on it. Thank you.
Very nice. Thank you, Alexandra. That was very well done.
Wow.
I'm going to bring you an apple next week. I feel more studious and I've learned stuff. Thank you.
Miss Boomer Mama.
Where did you learn your presentation skills, Alexandra? I know you must have done many presentations at your former gigs.
I did. I was speaking in front of thousands of people, and I actually liked that. I interact. I love with that. It's not as easy on screen as it is in real life. But those that have seen me on stage at the Tesla Take or whatever, I heat the crowd. I make them participate and all that.
And you've been
and I love that. Yeah, and I've been on TV.
You've been on
I mean,
TV
I'm
many
old,
times.
right? That comes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that comes with the. I've been on CNBC. Chick.
Very
Long
nice.
time ago.
Very nice.
One day you and Jeff will be there. So let me just summarize what I heard, right? So obviously the Chinese automakers are making a big push. The Chinese government is absolutely supporting them and making sure they go export out, taking advantage of this leap to new technology of electric vehicles, and they're succeeding. Every market they go to, they grow. The price matters. And because they are able to reduce the cost of the car, they are going to sell more. And then affordability happens to be an issue right now for probably the world, but certainly the US. And so you need to have lower cost prices. So now in the US, it doesn't, the UAWs and the Fords and those guys, they can't even make a profitable car, let alone a cheap AV. Tesla has to reduce the price, and they have to win by price. And that's why they're cutting costs as much as they can. And they're going to win on both sides, right? Much better car, lower price. But they're also in China. They're everywhere. So the question is, Jeff, you're the guy to ask this question. What's the government in the US going to do? Are they going to say no EV, no Chinese EV allowed here? Or are they going to say, if you build a factory here, just like Tesla built a factory there, you're allowed to sell here? What's going to happen, Jeff?
Yeah, Herbert, if you could find that slide that had the gap by country, with the arrows going up and down, that'd be an interesting one to speak to. Because here's how I see this playing out. One is what China's been doing up to this point is exporting. I know there's discussions of setting up various factories in Europe and so forth, but in general, they've been an export shop. And so what that is that's their labor, that's their approach to manufacturing, low cost, in capitalization that extends over many years, and the economics work. For them to be able to do that. As soon as these countries either start putting up barriers and saying, look, if you want presence in our country, you're going to have to build here. The problem where it breaks down, where China runs into a problem, is when they have to come to a country like the US to set up manufacturing. What happens is that highly manual operation. I'm not saying they have zero automation. Don't take everything I say as absolutes. But in general, like if you look at BYD, for example, they have an electronics business, they've got an auto business, they have a battery business, but they have 660,000 employees. And Tesla's, in the 140, 150K range. And they have a highly manual manufacturing process. So what does that mean? What it means is, if BYD is allowed to build cars in China and export them, I think the economics will be decent for them. Actually, they're not on EV. We don't believe they're making money on EV, and in their overall auto business, they're barely operation margin profitable. I think it's about 3.8 they have to ship 3.8 to 4 cars. They have the same margins as Tesla shipping 1 Tesla. So that mode, that way of manufacturing, if they were to say, okay, you got to set up, you have to, let's say there's a hypothetical of like the US, all right, you want to set up here, you've got to build here. It doesn't transfer. That highly manual process will be a lot more expensive to build here, and then they lose their competitive advantage. What Tesla has is they get the unit economics right in terms of design for cost. The decisions that are made before the first car is built, before the first prototype is built, they have this feature value trade-off that works, and they figure out how to minimize components, minimize process, and have the most simplistic approach to manufacturing. And then they make that manufacturing as automated as possible. So if you built a Tesla in the US, yes, the labor rates are going to be higher here versus in China. In Shanghai, it's the same automobile is a much more cheaper than for the build. But the point is they can adapt and move to different countries. They have the software also to adapt and work in different countries. It's not going to work as well the other way around. I'm not saying never. What I'm saying is for this to work for the Chinese, number one is they would have to go highly automated in their manufacturing process. 2, they would have to have a software platform that they can export and regionalize globally. And those are two very big things for them. And then three, they're going to need the politics on their side. And geopolitically, and this is one of the things I saw with geopolitically, the momentum is not moving in their direction in terms of like people wanting to open up and do more business with them. So there's
Well,
three things I think that are working against them:
Yeah.
the design, their approach to manufacturing, their software, and then geopolitically.
well, I think there are actually three things working for them. In Europe, they have caved. The Europeans initially didn't want them there. The Chinese were very clever. They were starting to say, you know what, we're buying your old factories. So Ford put an old factory up for sale. China looked at it. In the end, didn't purchase it. It's still pending. There are a couple others that they're watching. And the Chinese come out of those and say, oh, well, this is too old. We don't want this old stuff. But Europe had hoped to sell them these old factories. And the Chinese are very clever in understanding that they're not going to restructure these old OEM companies to make EVs here. They want highly automated factories. So Europe, they have won the political game. They're already there, and they will grow there. And Europe, the problem with Europe is 29 countries, lots of people to be able to bribe. I'm sorry to say so, but this is what it is. And so there's always a way to get into Europe, much easier than somewhere else. Like I showed, in Africa, in Latin America, they're already there. They're actually already there in Mexico as well. So the whole question comes to the point: will the United States, and I mean, I'm sorry to say so, but the only one that has the guts, I was nearly going to say something else, to say no, is Trump. He has always said to the Chinese, if you want to come, it's going to be at an enormous price, right? There will be enormous tariffs. And Trump now siding so much with the auto workers, I don't believe his rhetoric on EVs. I think that's just bluff and blustering. But I do believe that if it comes to it and he has to protect the U.S. car market, he will not allow, or only at huge tariffs, Chinese cars to come into the United States. That will be the last thing that will stop it.
Yeah, and it won't work. The economics won't work when those tariffs are in. And even if you said you have to localize and build here and create jobs here, the economics won't work for them either. Because again, I think they don't get the design for cost piece as well as Tesla does, and they're highly manual in their manufacturing processes. So you take that and try to cut and paste that from China to the U.S., they're gonna struggle even to find enough labor to be able to build like that. So I think there's a number of barriers. Is it could it never happen in a million years? No, I think it's a matter of time, but I think it's a long time. And I don't think any head of state in the US would look at this equation and say, all right, I have an auto industry. The question is, are they going to be structurally competitive or not? Are they structurally bankrupt? Because at some point your population needs access to vehicles. So this is where the rubber is going to hit the road. Like, is there a structurally sound auto market domestic to the U.S. that doesn't just need to be propped up yearly? And if the answer is yes, then they're going to keep China out.
Yeah, I agree with both Alexandra and Jeff. I tend to agree with Jeff on that third point politically. I just do not see Chinese vehicles coming to the U.S. I don't see them building a plant here. I don't see them exporting them here. I think the politics of this is so bad that between the two countries and trade and all that it's just not tenable anytime soon. Jeff might be right. A long time the road, things change, but I just don't see it happening. I don't see we've never, we've let the Japanese, the Europeans, the Chinese have never been able to bring any type of highly manufactured a vehicle to the United States. I don't think they will. I don't think it's tenable economically, and I definitely don't think it's tenable politically.
I want to add that there's a movie called American Factory on Netflix, and it really shows. Jeff, you said the economics won't work if they try to build here, but is it the economics or the work ethic? And I hate saying that because I think that the entire backbone of this country was built on hard work, but look at watch that movie. People have gone, don't hate me, but really soft, and I think of that like hard times creates tough men, and then, and the tough people create hard times, and that saying. But ultimately, I just think Elon nailed it. Elon got it right. He went for scale and went for volume and cleared out at whatever. And I didn't feel that way when it was happening, but I really get the picture now.
And I would like to add two things, if you permit. One is BYD. BYD in Germany now is making partnerships with car dealers of other brands so that those car dealers present the BYD cars and maintain them. That is a strategy that seems very clever, meaning the cars are still manufactured in China, then brought to Europe and sold via already existing dealerships who get a cut into it. The second one is Chery. Chery is having partnerships with Land Rover and Range Rover, and they are actually looking for factories in Europe to be able to do them. But they announced very clearly this week that they want factories in which 95% automation levels will be achieved, because they know darn well as well. I mean, Xander, you're wondering about work ethics in the US. I can tell you work ethics in Europe, you can go down a couple of notches. So they're in France at a 35-hour week and strike and all that. Germany is a little bit better, but it's still, it's less than in the US. So all that to say, if they do come to Europe and do produce in Europe, it's going to be highly automated. Now, will they be able to set up factories in the US? That's where politics matter. And I see all these comments, people thinking I'm a Trumpist. I'm not. Just let's get that very clear. But I just want to make very clear as well that I'm certainly not with the current administration. I don't think they are going to protect us and the US market from what's going to come.
Okay. I just want to make a point about Tesla, that this is why Tesla and Elon has a relentless focus on cost and reducing the price of electric vehicles. First goal has to be price parity with gas cars, ICE cars. And, yes, there was a temporary artificial price increase because of supply chain issues, COVID issues. And then they had to, we had great margins. So stock investors, we were all over that. Then they had to bring the price down because of affordability was the issue. Elon keeps saying affordability is the number one issue. And yet we still hear so many people saying, you don't need to lower the price if you can just, do advertising first. Here's why, okay? Get to the price even lower and lower and lower. You don't want to miss the game when the other competitors come with lower priced cars. I mean, you just have to bring it down. So I think we're well positioned.
Here's what here's what Elon and Tesla are doing. He's competing on performance and specs with the American and European car manufacturers. He's competing on cost with the Chinese. And it looks like he's in a position right now, Tesla's in a position to win on both fronts.
Yeah.
I agree. Whoa. And I forgot one last thing, and then I'm done, I promise. Earlier, I said, one of the countries is already at 50% of the car sales being Chinese. I don't know whether you called which one that is. That is Russia. 1 car out of 2 currently sold in Russia is Chinese.
Yeah.
A Russia-China alliance.
Okay, so first of all, if you are an audience member watching this, please give us a like. Please follow Alexandra Tesla Boomer Mama. You've got Jeff Lutz, you got Christian and Xander. Thank you for the extra work you put in together, Alexandra. The commentary is just brilliant. And you guys are just, all I do is ask questions. Dumbest in the room. I'll say it first. So thank you.
You make it all possible.
Okay. Yeah, well, that was fantastic, because that's the first time somebody had actually put everything together, which is affordability, car sales, all globally, and what the Chinese are doing. And you got to stay ahead of what they're doing. Although I think what Jeff said makes sense, which is when you take a closer look at BYD and the other Chinese manufacturers, they are driven primarily by employees. I think BYD has 600,000 employees, and they themselves have said that they have to get automation in place. And so they've somehow reduced price of cars, but it's like because of quality. Right. It's. I mean, I've seen these cars; they're pretty good.
Yeah.
But it's humans doing
Well,
work, not automation. So
yeah. Doesn't China have one car? It's called like the Wulang or something. It's like really like you wouldn't even sell it here. It's so unsafe. There's like
Yeah.
no seatbelts, and they sell it for like
Yeah, it's like
$10,000.
$5,000.
Something.
Yeah. No,
Yeah,
it's
something
less than that.
crazy.
wow.
Yeah, there's two
Yeah.
topics that aren't sexy conversations. One is software. So when we were in smartphone world and we're seeing the Chinese are coming, right? First it was the Korean, then the Chinese. It was easier for them to actually come over because what were they using? They were using Android. Android was open sourced and it was available. There isn't an open sourced auto platform for controls, layer one, the entire vehicle experience. That doesn't exist. And so I think besides the labor the labor intensive aspect to build their vehicles and its transferability to Europe or to the US, the other thing of it's going to be software. And the ability for them to localize a software platform that Americans would want to buy and others would want to buy, I think that's a fairly big stretch. By the way, American companies aren't hitting out of the park either in terms of vehicle experience, but they have something for their customers that's familiar to them. The other thing, and Christian just hit on it, is reliability standards, and for a car to ship here and to be sold here, there's certain standards that need to be met, and there's ratings. So I think there's the other aspect of it is not only reliability in terms of is it going to meet minimum safety thresholds, but also reliability and quality, based on how vehicles are driven here. Like, will those economics even work for those companies here? So, and based on our understanding of warranty standards, they're very different in different countries. You go to Europe, it's they get almost double the allotment in many cases in many industries for warranty. So anyway, there's a number of things that are less sexy behind the scenes. I think at the localization of software, I think reliability and quality standards, again, these are all things that they would have to solve for, and they're pretty big.
Okay. Should we move on to a new topic, or is there
Let's move it.
more comments? Wow.
No, let's move it.
Let's move it. All right. So first, I should talk like this, so I can sound more like Jeff. Capacity
Me too.
reservations, inventory buildups, cost restructuring. All right.
I hope the viewers know I'm
Unit
being made fun
economics.
of here.
Unit economics.
No.
I'm being abused. I'm being abused. In
Not
the
at
comments,
all.
let
Not
us
at
know
all.
how you feel about this.
Oh no! I'm gonna get hammered. Take it down. We got to take you down a notch. Okay, it's like you and
Herbert's
Alexander.
making fun of me.
Yeah.
Me? What's
I
me
didn't-
now? What did I do now?
I didn't hear you making fun of Alexander, just me.
Overutilization of the capacity output. I'm just kidding.
Okay. Well, I mean, top level
Don't get me
executive
started.
of Fortune 100
we have to
companies.
add some levity to the conversation.
Yeah.
Good job, Herbert.
All right. So
Thanks.
what
Greg.
topic do we want to talk about? I mean, are we done with Tesla? Do you guys want to talk about? I mean, I think the bot has been over talked about. The book about Elon has been talked about. What was the other topics you think we haven't yet addressed?
Yeah, we've hit everything. We've hit like on our spaces. We've hit, everyone out there. We do a lot of spaces on X. We talked about the UAW a bunch. We talked about bot. I don't know.
Yeah.
I guess we
the
can
stock,
talk,
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We can talk about the
The
stock.
Tes-
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you guys want to talk Tesla stock, or we can move on to other stocks as well? So Tesla stock, right? I mean, it's been bad. It went up, it went down, and it's kind of stayed flat. The question I've been asking people is like, what, and then people like you would say, well, if you look at the earnings, it's going to be flat for a long time. Don't expect it to go up. But I keep saying that it's some sort of like a slingshot. Every milestone that, some catalyst happen doesn't move the stock, but it builds up. Do you guys expect something like that could happen, or not really for the next year because of the environment that we're in and just the earnings is just because of the price cuts?
I'll go first. No one knows, Herbert, to be quite honest. We're just speculating. I've talked about this numerous times. Anything could happen, but it's hard to get a stock price to move up higher if the earnings isn't going higher. Tesla stock got punished too far on the downside. It's moved up nicely off a very low base. It's still like what 40% off its highs or something like that. So the only way I could see Tesla stock really going is if something happens, and I've said this before, that the market doesn't expect. So is Tesla bot accelerating quicker? Do they do a presentation and it just blows it away that everybody sees it? Does FSD get a license, from Ford or another, OEM to show a stream's coming, a forever stream of a licensing deal, right? That's going to move the market. But other than that, on the kind of margins you're getting now, because you have the high interest rates created by the Fed and the inflationary environment, you have a stock that's earnings are flat year over year, if anything. And next year, if nothing changes and we're just valuing it basically on a car business and some of these other things that might hit in the next, year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, then I think you have a range bound stock. I could be completely wrong and one of these things hit and it could move quick, or this strike goes on and the more people see it, and they really see that GM and Ford are not competitors to Tesla at all. Not only are they behind, they are never, ever, ever even going to be a solid number 2 or a solid number 3 or a solid number 4. Then the market might ascribe more value to Tesla, saying Tesla is going to dominate this market so much. It's going to go from 65% EVs because it's come down a little bit and it reaccelerates higher. Then I think the stock could get a leg higher, knowing that the market is saying, okay, these guys are really, nowhere near it, and Tesla's going to run away with this for the next 5, 6, 7 years. That is possible.
All right, I'll jump in. I think you're missing the magic 4-letter word. Starts with an F. FOMO.
I don't want to know. Oh, FOMO.
What is FSD? That's not okay.
No,
this
that's
is
3.
not a
That's
FOMO
3.
market,
So
Xander.
you
It's not a FOMO market.
Precisely the point. See, Christian's paying attention. He knows where I'm
Put it on
going.
the split screen.
There's no FOMO, and personally, I'm looking at it going, if there's another leg down, I literally have 4 figures in the bank account. I just have enough to pay the bills. Everything goes to Tesla. So I start thinking about the what ifs, and I don't want to experience the 86% drawdown in my portfolio that I did when we went from 315s down to, or 400s down to 100. So I start thinking, like, where do we go? Is it important to have a down payment on a house, or is it important to have some kind of peace of mind? So if I'm having that, I imagine others are as well. And ultimately, I don't question the company. I think that they're doing everything correct in what their approach. It's the best management I've seen, and I'm obviously not an expert, but I think that we have to be realistic. And for all the haters that say get Christian off the show, you have to understand that this is what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to analyze our investment decisions and think about what is the potential for being flat for a couple many years. Is it wiser to deploy cash or sit on it? And maybe go into a treasury bill. So these are all things that I think about, and over the last week I've been leaning towards building up a ready to deploy sub 200 fund. I just don't know if we're going there, but if the Bears have it their way, we may. Technically speaking, it's not looking so good. From my perspective. What do you guys think of the technicals of the market broadly? Obviously, Tesla we know very well.
Go ahead, Jeff. You're good at technicals.
Well, I mean, I think Tesla needed to break above 280 to get out of the kind of the multi-year downtrend, and so I think it's right around the 50-day, and it's not technically in trouble yet. But I mean, technicals to me, it's just like one. To me, I go back to the company, the thesis, the leadership, the balance sheet. I go there, and then I look at technicals on top of that, because if the other stuff's not there, technicals aren't going to matter as much. I would say in the long term, it's more of a validation of if you've done the right fundamental due diligence on the company or not. So yeah, I don't like doing short-term predictions. I think we're in a very sketchy time, both in the economy as well with Tesla and this near-term deliveries. But I think if they hold their delivery target for the year, they talk about growth coming in the following year. I think the next thing the street's going to look for, because they've been taking their 2024 down. But what's been happening with Tesla over time is it's been in this consolidation phase. And the longer time it spends in this consolidation phase, I think the better it is for the stock technically. And the other thing it allows Tesla to do, and I talked a little bit about it in a video today, is they're moving inventory. They've got great sales in a very tough macro environment, and they're investing. They're investing in things that no other quote unquote just a car company is doing, from the bot, from Dojo, from energy. You name it. FSD, they have their own global self-driving platform. So you have a number of things, and I think Christian mentioned, that could trigger a rally if full self-driving is it out of beta in the U.S.? Is it introduced into a new country? Is there a partner selected for Tesla that has selected Tesla to install their full self-driving platform and license it to them? I think these are things that, again, this isn't financial advice, but these are things that could start happening while Tesla's in this consolidation phase. As long as it's not broken as a stock, and as long as the fundamentals of the company are strong, what's going to be on the other side of this, right? They're doing all this investment, and you've got rates eventually at some point next year are going to start coming down. So at the other side of this, you have rates coming down, and you have a very strong company, very strong unit economics for vehicle. Then is that supercomputer going to be the biggest supercomputer at some point next year? Is FSD going to be out of beta? Is the bot going to be doing meaningful tasks in the factory? There's a number of things. So now we're getting out of 2023. Everybody's look ahead is 2024, but soon that's going to shift to 2025 very quickly. And then, of course, you've got the next gen vehicle. You've got Cybertruck at scale. You've got Model 3 Plus, at scale. There's a lot of things out there. I know I've gone through a number of different things, but between how they're investing and what's coming, I'm pretty bullish. I'm not going anywhere. The question is, what are the near-term catalysts, and what are the ones that are kind of further out there? But I'm not advocating any like big move. And again, I don't do short-term predictions, except on delivery events.
No, that was awesome, Jeff. I could just mention one more thing, and then Alexandra, you can move to a topic. I think this is helpful. I put this as a post, and this is just my perspective. You could feel free to disagree with me or say I'm an idiot. In 2019, 2020, we had a lot of stocks, including Tesla, that had monumental moves that were reminiscent of the tech bubble of 20. You saw stocks like PayPal, Square, these things just rock, all of them. Kathy, the ARK fund, all these things went literally vertical, straight up. And that's what I called a trader's market, right? They were not sustainable. Square still doesn't have earnings. I'm not picking on Square. I'm just giving you an example. Some of these other stocks, like a Zoom or something, these things went vertical 4, 5, 6, 7x, 10x your money in a very short period of time. They've all come back to earth, crashing down 60, 70, 80, some 90%. That is a trader's market. I believe now we're in an investor's market. Find companies you love, that you've researched. Find companies that you understand, that you're confident in. And if you're doing single stocks, if you're just doing the index, that's one thing. But if we're a single stock show, we're a stock show in general. and other stuff. But now
Whoa.
I said it's an investor's market. What I've been doing is I find the companies that I understand and that I love and that I believe in, and I've done my research. I've listened to all the conference calls, and I put a position in at these. I think we have very, very discounted prices on a lot of stocks. I buy them, and then I wait to see what happens. If the market gives me better prices, I'm able to then add to those for the long term. So now I'm becoming more patient. I'm less of a trader because we were in a trader's market. And if you just go back and look at a chart, you'll see it was a trader's market. I mean, you could have been an investor through all that, but I think it was more of a trader's market. It was up and it's crashed back down. And now you got a lot of companies on sale because of the Fed and the interest rates and the macroeconomics that you could buy slowly. Again, not financial advice, and then get the appreciation of the asset over the next 2, 3, 5, 7 years, as long as you pick the right stocks that are going to make money, stocks that are continually going to grow. That you'll be fine. So again, from a trader's market to now, I think we're in an investor's market.
Did someone say chart?
You changed.
So I show it because I think, go back to what I started with. You're saying that FSD, I'm reading some of the comments, and FSD is, that's the next leg up, and Elon said it. I think it comes down to FOMO. As soon as the market changes directions and the Fed, holds and says that they're done raising and stops being hawkish, then you can have this pricing in of what's coming, because I mean, everyone sees what's coming, right? It's that bot is UAW striking, but that bot is looking like they're ready to take their jobs. So,
Yeah. And I would really like to add this. Everybody sees what's coming from so many sides, right? Cybertruck, Model 3 Plus. I mean, the Model 3 Plus isn't even in the US yet, right? There'll probably be a Model Y update. So, and that's just the cars. And then you have everything else, and including the bot, the FSD, whatever. So we're having a very early sight into that. Wall Street doesn't want to account of that. I still have not digested completely Adam Jonas's report, because there was so much in there, and I'm really sad nobody is really taking the time to do it paragraph by paragraph, because there's so much in there. Did you do it? Did you do it?
Jeff and I did a whole show on
I didn't see that. I'm sorry.
We don't watch
Paragraph by paragraph, sentence by sentence.
Herbert, she said nobody. So
No.
I mean, we're nobody.
She called you. She called you nobody.
I didn't know. But anyway, so let's go back to that one. So, but there's so much in that Wall Street doesn't account for. And Xander is completely right. There are just moments in time Wall Street ignores it, doesn't want to see it, doesn't have, the appetite for it. And then comes the moment where they see it and extrapolate it and maybe go even further than they should. So it's not a stock for short term. It's a stock if you're there for the medium and long term, and even medium I'm reserved about. Then you can stomach that. If you hope that in the next 3 or 6 months you're at a certain price, don't go into Tesla. It's not made for that.
And let me just say, I disagree with Xander. I don't think that everybody sees it. I think if they actually believed, I think if they actually believed Tesla was going to make a functional bot that could do things that we see, that would be rolling. I don't think it's the Fed holding it back. I don't believe, there's a lot of skeptics on Tesla. There's a lot of skeptics on Elon for everything that he's accomplished. There is still tremendous doubt that he can get cars to drive itself safely. There's tremendous doubt that he could make a functional robot in the next couple of years that could do things that we all believe in, but they do not. So I disagree, Xander. I do not think everyone sees this.
Christian, you were saying this 6 months, a year ago, and I was fiercely fighting you on this. And it's actually some of it. I won't say it's all true. Some of what you said kind of makes sense now, which is people have lost their trust in Elon's predictions because he has called FSD every year. Right?
Yeah.
So, and then when you read the book, you can see, you can see that he actually does do that, where he kind of like says things ahead of time. But it's not Theranos scenario, okay? This is not vapor. I saw somebody in the comments say it's vaporware. It's not vaporware. That's proven in fact it isn't. But what that means is there's a lot of people who doubt what he says and doubt when we report Look what the bot can do. Look what the car can do. They just doubt it at this point. Then what happens is when it actually is inevitable, and you can't deny it anymore because of what it can do, it's going to skyrocket. That's the scenario set up because no one's believing anymore when we all say, do you not see what the bot can do? Do you not see? Nobody gets it. They have an excuse because of what Elon's been kind of saying for too long. It's unfortunate. That's what's happened.
Yeah, but once you get FSD into the bot, like, is that connection going to come at some point, right? Is Wall Street going to realize that they haven't?
There's people with the video that was released on the weekend. Some people are going, "Oh, can't wait to see what happens on the stock on Monday because finally institutional firms cannot deny that the bot."
No. There's literally no FOMO at this time, right? No one's worried about the stock running away here.
Well, you had a little bit of FOMO, Xander. I watched that show, and you were like, "I think Monday they're going to see it."
No, who said that? Xander said it.
Show.
I think he's just stirring the pot.
No, I had a little bit of FOMO. I thought
no way.
No,
that's you.
So. Yeah, but I control my FOMO now. It's very controllable.
No, I mean because you are following it closely, you do care about the bot, you know what it can do. So you realize it's moving forward. 99% of people don't believe what they're seeing. They think it. How many people said that it was CGI? It was bull, right?
Right, exactly. Yeah, and then you even sorry,
go ahead,
you even see Tesla bulls, maybe not like as bullish as we are, but they're saying, they don't believe Elon, and they're going to wait till they see FSD actually hit the books.
It's too late.
And that's the point. The question becomes, how long will it take for the numbers to hit the books? Because that if anyone is in cash, which I'm not. But considering it, then that becomes the time to no matter what the price is to go, right?
Well, yeah, there's a couple ways you can do it. Like, so you could just sit there and be in the name and just don't worry, but like do what Herbert does, or like you just zone everything out. It does whatever it wants, and then 10 years down the road, you win, right? Or you could be a little bit strategic about it and kind of do what I do, where I have a position. If the position comes lower and the market gives me better prices, I can add to it. So I take a little bit of the volatility out of it, just for me personally, because I don't like 60% drawdowns. I don't like 70% drawdowns. I don't like 80% drawdowns. I like to minimize my drawdown. So that's one way of doing it. The other way of doing it, real quick, is you might miss the initial run, but if you're on top of the story and you see it starting to move, you might miss the first day or two. You might miss a 10, 20%. But then if you believe it's going to like triple or 4x, you could add to your position. I did that in 2019, to be honest. I had a position. The stock doubled. I went heavier after the double. That's how much I thought it was going to go. So I'm not recommending this. I'm saying I did that. I went heavier as the stock went higher. Now, not all the way. I caught it before it got really crazy. But it already moved like 50, 60%. And then I put a huge more on to get that next, because it almost did a 20x. So, after a double, if you get another 4 or 5x, you could still add money there if you believe like this is really going to, valuation's really going to go higher. Again, I'm not recommending that. I think the best thing is to do what Herbert does. If you're not a trader and if you're not on it every day and you're not home because you have a job, buy and hold. Again, doing it in one stock to me is still a risky thing. If you're going to be a buy and hold, I think that's more of an index strategy. Again, not financial advice, but if you're going to do it, everyone can do what they want. But again, when you're in one individual name, buy and hold's great, but it better work out, because if it doesn't, you're buying and holding and you're waiting. As the S&P grinds, does it 8-9% a year, you might not get that. So that's all. That's all I'll say.
Jeff, Alexandra, I want to hear from you.
No, I mean, it's his strategy. I just wonder whether Christian makes more money on it than we do by just holding. But maybe he does. Do you always win, Christian?
I win a lot, not always though.
Yeah, the problem I have on last point on the stock stuff is I imagine a lot of the audience is feeling the same thing. Is I'm like I feel burned by leaps, and so like knowing when is the time, and that's really what I want to have the cash for. Is I want to know when that time comes and push it into leaps, because one of the strategies is when the stock is falling, you should be in stock, and then when it's rising, you should be in leaps. But now, if you're going to go sideways for 2 years, then those leaps become worthless. So that's something that I think about. So do you guys think in the next 2 years, and obviously not financial advice, we're just guessing here, do you think that that it's nearly impossible that the earnings don't show an increase? What do you think, and what does it look like in the next 2 years?
No, I think it's definitely possible the earnings don't show an increase. So we had the same conversation, Xander. You're looking at me crazy. We just went through it. We were talking about leaps in 2019.
I want to hear Jeff. I want to hear Jeff, and
go ahead, Jeff.
We know what you think. You're negative, Nancy. I need hope.
I'm not
People
negative.
need hope.
No, you got to be realistic about things. The Fed could hold this market up for years. Do you remember the 07-09 crash? Do you remember the 2000 bubble? Do you remember 1929, the Great Depression? I'm not calling for any of that stuff. The market, especially on individual stocks, it's very difficult to just say this is the name and it's a sure thing. I'm just saying you got to be careful. Look, I was an index investor for a lot of years. I bought Tesla in 2019, but it didn't deroot me from my natural tendency to always protect capital. To be a great investor, you have to protect capital. If you just let capital go and just hope for the best, or say, I'll look at the capital in 5 years, you might not have any capital. So again, I'm just saying, I love to hear what Jeff has to say with it. This is not financial advice, but the number one rule in investing is to protect capital.
Yeah, my first comment is none of what we're giving is financial advice, because the like if you did a factorial analysis of like our 5 styles and then how many hundreds and thousands of people are watching and what their different financial situations are, it's hard to say like I listened to that one person and then it works for me. It just doesn't work that way. You've really got to analyze and understand your own risk tolerance, understand what you should be doing. I'm a super high risk investor, and but everybody's got a different approach. I'm more of kind of a long-term buy and hold, in the common share. I don't get into the leap thing and some of the other things. So I think it's really hard. I'm very humbled by the market in terms of like, can I actually call like where the stock is going to be on a certain day? I'm like, man, that's really hard to do. But can I study and understand the fundamentals of the company and understand that, almost do kind of like a Monte Carlo like probability analysis of like, here's all the different variables, here's all the different businesses this company is in, and what's the probability of success of each one of these lanes, FSD in the United States, FSD in China, the bot, the dojo, all these different things, just auto EV adoption around the world. And what I've come to learn with Tesla is the number of things it is kind of a high risk, high reward thing, but it's also the number of things that they're in. And I would say if you were to stack those probabilities, it's in one of the better positions of all the mega caps out there. I mean, I think NVIDIA is in a good place as well. I don't want to give individual stock advice here, but there's mega caps that are growing and there's mega caps that are not growing. And I'd rather be, if we're part of that magnificent 7, I'd rather be where Tesla is, and I'd rather have the visionary CEO that's literally dreaming up the next business. Who thought like 2 or 3 years ago Starlink would be where it is today with its reach? And there's just so many other different examples. I know that's not Tesla, but there's so many other different examples. But I go back to my roots of like, okay, what do I know and what do I understand? What do I have domain expertise in? And I can study their supply chain, and I can study their approach to supply chain, and I can look at kind of their core fundamentals and their cost structure and their approach. And I believe they've got an approach that will stand the test of time and outcompete others. They just do. And so that's what I rely on, and that's what I look at. and that's why I've made the decisions I've made. But in terms of everyone's risk tolerance and how much you should do and how much you should be in cash, and that's an individual decision. Should you be on margin? This whole like unicall of like, yes, nobody should do this and everybody should do that. Like, you're not going to hear that from me. I don't think it's appropriate coming from anyone. And but I think you should it goes back to the fundamentals, do your own research. But there's lots. I would say just getting back to like this clean energy, really getting into like energy storage, I think is a big, gigantic field that I think is going to explode. I think it's something that governments are incentivizing, and I think there's a lot of innovation that's being poured in it. And so I like the vectors in the areas that Tesla is in and some other companies. And I'm going to see where it's going. In terms of these 60, 70, 80% drawdowns, I don't like those. This whole thing of like, oh, the stock's it's on sale. I don't want sales. I want premium pricing the whole way, but it's going to happen. And that's why you can take a long position, but you can also trade around the edges and say, look, I have a core position. It's 70 or 80% of where I want it to be. And I'm going to have this, this trading position around it that I do every so often. So that's how I think about it.
I love that, Jeff. But there's one time where you don't mind 60, 70, 80% drawdowns. If you have cash and you could buy those 60, then they're good. But if you actually have a meaningful position, you do not want that big a drawdown. That was that's painful. You have no asset, So yeah, I agree with you. Go ahead, Herbert.
Yeah. Okay. I'm gonna just repeat something I've said a long time ago, many episodes before. The name of the game of investing, in my perspective, is to make money. So clearly, I've got cash to protect myself that I'm not going to invest. But the money I invest is to make money. So it's not about capital preservation at that point. Now, I'm in growth mode, so that's my situation, right? Not everybody, when you get older, you want to kind of make sure that your risk is lower. How do I choose the company that has the lowest risk? There's three things, right? Market, product, and team. And you look at all the companies out there and you look at market, product, and team. Which one has that? And I explained to you guys before that surprisingly, the answer is actually market. If you choose a company that's in a market that is growing and is massive, then even the weak companies, the weak products and the weak teams, they'll still succeed. They won't fail because it's such a massive market that has room for many competitors, for many different variations. Okay, less chance. Market's most important. The next one is the team. And then the next one is the product, right? And so it turns out that Tesla seems to be, in my perspective, my evaluation, they're going after markets, not just the EV revolution. We're not just talking about the energy packs. We're talking about bots. We're talking about AI. These four that I just mentioned are the largest markets that you can probably pick. Next one could be food, right? That is just massive. So the markets for all of these are exploding. And so just as long as Tesla has a product, it's going to get there, they'll succeed. And then the team, as we know, there's no one better than Elon, and all the top people are being hired. Number 1 and 2 is SpaceX and Tesla. And then the products, come on, we all see the products, we see it, and we know that they're superior in many ways. So for me, yeah, it's going to fall in a year or two. We're all very disappointed when it does that. But you at the end of the day, of all the companies I can think of, including Apple, including Google, including Facebook, and all the other guys, I still think this is the right bet for me because of these reasons. If I compare, what other markets these other guys are in, they're in 1 or 2 massive markets, but Tesla is in 5. I mean, it's just crazy, and they're going to keep adding next year. So, anyways, okay, that's my
awesome.
Position.
Real fast, I just want to since I love talking this stuff, Herbert, what you said there was perfect, very well said. The only thing I'll say, I didn't say capital preservation. I said capital protection. So if you buy a Leap and you put $50,000 in that Leap and that Leap doesn't hit, you've eviscerated $50,000 that if you would have just hold and bought stock and had a long time horizon, that 100,000, if it 10x's, could be 500,000. So you just literally eviscerated $500,000 because you did
if
a
the
Leap
stock
strategy.
went up, if the stock went up, the Leap went up as well.
No, I'm saying if it didn't make it to that price, then the Leap eviscerates, worthless. If you hit it, yes, that's more then you're going to make a lot more. But I'm just giving you the example of
we know that, Christian. I think when we talk leaps, I think all 5 of us have already said that when somebody here plays leaps, and I don't really play it, but if we do, it's a tiny bit of your total overall thing. You should never do anything massive. It's just a tiny bit. So you want to have fun, gamble, go for it.
Yeah.
But that's just
and
not a big deal.
I would like to add, Elon is currently live at the border. He's talking immigration and all that. So probably most of our viewers who are live here probably want to see that. And I think we gave a very good, nearly 2-hour show to everybody, and should probably wrap it up.
Okay. But what's your thoughts? What's your thoughts?
No, I'm all good. You've heard me.
Okay, so folks, please, thank you very much for watching. Please follow us on Twitter, on X as @CyberBulls1. For now, we'll eventually get @CyberBulls. Follow the folks here on the screen. Just incredible input and all that. Thank you, Alexander, for your wonderful presentation.
Thanks,
everybody.
Great job.
Great job.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you.
Hey, guys.